Following an exciting Matchweek 19 of the WSL season, we're here to review it. With Chelsea and Arsenal busy playing Champions League semi-finals, this weekend allowed us to focus on the other teams in the league. We discussed Liverpool's upturn in performance and the subsequent drop-off from Brighton. We look at how Everton punished a wasteful Man City side, and analyse what on earth happened between Tottenham and Aston Villa. This is our Matchweek 19 WSL review. Alright, let's get into it. Matchweek 19 of the WSL season. We're back again, to review it. We're going to start with the early kickoff on the Saturday. West Ham versus Manchester United, Harry. I thought this was going to be a really interesting game of football. It wasn't.
yeah, it wasn't. That's a great way of putting it. It was a game that I think a lot of people expected to see a very simple Manchester United win, where West Ham put up a bit of a fight, but United, at the end of the day, use their strength, use their quality to come out as winners. That is not what happened, and I think that this is a result we probably should have seen coming. West Ham have been in brilliant form in 2025. They've already drawn with Man City and Chelsea this calendar year, so hosting Man United, we should have expected, I think, a more difficult game, and that's exactly what they did. They made it very difficult for United to break them down. They played some really positive stuff at times, and they caused a lot of problems for a backline who, overall this season, have looked really, really strong. To have 10 shots against a Man United side who have only conceded a handful of goals is not bad. Yes, United obviously did keep a clean sheet, again, showing how good they are defensively, but it's the fact that they allowed West Ham to have so many attempts that really caught me out. So credit to West Ham, because they were solid defensively. King Ashemik was absolutely superb in net. But when they did get the opportunity to come forward, they ran at Man United and they did cause them a few issues. Not enough issues to find a goal, but to take a point away from a United side who have had a very, very good season, it's not a bad result at all.
No, I think West Ham are being slept on a little bit here. As you say, I think most people would have expected a routine United victory, but unbeaten in their last 4 now for the Hammers. Since the turn of the year, they've only lost 3 games. That was a 1-0 loss to Liverpool, a 1-goal margin to Arsenal, 4-3. They really shouldn't have lost that game, though, and 5-0 to Chelsea. But other than that, they've been really good since the turn of the year, and they picked up a lot of points. They've taken themselves out of the relegation scrap. They find themselves 4 points off 5th now, and that gap was actually made large this weekend as Liverpool went on to win. But they've been really good, West Ham, and as they look at their last few fixtures, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Leicester City, they'll look at those 3 as that should be 9 points.
Yeah.
And they could end up finishing the season on 29 points, at as high as 4th, potentially. It's been a really good campaign for the Hammers, but it's sort of gone under the radar. They've performed well towards the end of the season, where I think the mainstream, and us included, is distracted by the FA Cup, the Conti Cup, the Champions League semi-finals, all this going on, the battle at the top, who's getting relegated. That West Ham have just slowly chugged along, picking up points on their way, and then everyone's sort of not paying attention to it.
Yeah, and I think that West Ham and Rayan Skinner especially deserve their plaudits, because at one point this season and pre-season going into it, they were, bar Crystal Palace, they were in that conversation. They were the favourites.
I think you put them down, didn't you?
I put them relegated and now look like an absolute fool. Shock. But I think that you have to give them credit, because they were in that conversation. A lot of people expect them to get relegated. We saw what Crystal Palace coming up and thought that if Palace were to survive, it would be West Ham who were caught out. And they've taken that, they've used that, and they've motivated themselves to push on this season. It's fair to say they struggled at the start of the campaign, but this calendar year and the results over the last couple of months have really, boosted them right up the table. And the fact that they can now challenge the top side and take points off them is very, very promising. And you have to give credit, I think, to Rayan Skinner a lot for that, because she's turned this side around and they've done a lot of work. They had a good January window, and they've got a lot of key players firing.
Yeah, and again, they've got a lot of quality players, as you say, and it's just about how they've figured out a system that makes it all work. I think the 3 backs are much more effective use of their players. I think they've switched quite effectively this season between a 4 and a 3 back based on opponent. I think in this United game, they really nullified United's threats by operating with a 3, and then obviously when they didn't have the ball, a 5 back. I thought that was really effective. I think this season we're seeing a really efficient transitional style of play from West Ham. They like to sit a little bit more defensive. We saw it in the Chelsea game, and then spring forward on the attack. And the problem is, because teams underestimate West Ham, they commit a lot of players to the attack. And then when West Ham break, West Ham counter, they get in behind, and then suddenly there's a chance for them. But yeah, as for Manchester United, it's just really stagnant in this game. They really struggled to break West Ham down. they've all. I mean, it's just another example of a team struggling against a really effective low block, but it wasn't. I thought West Ham probably looked more like the scoring patches of the game, but overall, United were probably the better side. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. 66% possession to 34%, 17 shots to 10, 5 on target to 3, and that's the key difference. That a percentage of shots then going on target really low for United. The finishing was really poor in this game. I also don't think the chance creation was particularly great. One big chance created from 17 shots. You'd have expected something better for Manchester United, but yeah, they were limited a bit to pot shots and a lot of. They really struggled. I mean, 13 shots inside the box and they only hit the target 5 times. That's really poor. That's really poor finishing from United's attackers.
They were massively wasteful, but as you say, it was probably the most easy 0-0 to predict in terms of once you actually watch the game back, and neither side really created anything of quality. It was shots from range. It was some really wasteful shooting from Man United. Clinton had 4 or 5. And Turland, Bizet, the lot had chances, and they were just not good enough. Really, they were difficult chances. That was the problem. They were difficult chances that they were then getting wrong, which then makes the shot look horrendous because it was a difficult one.
Yeah.
And even when they did manage to find the target, Kinga Shemik was there to match it, and she had another good game. I think there was a save in the second half, especially that was a clear difference between a average WSL goalkeeper and a goalkeeper who is a great goalkeeper, and it was really good.
I said it in the pre-season preview. Difficult to say.
Yeah.
I said it in that where Kinga Shemik is a goalkeeper who could come in and make a real difference, and we've seen that this season. I think with a lot of the sides that have pushed themselves out of that relegation conversation, the difference has been the goalkeeper. You think of Everton, Courtney Brosnan's had a fantastic season. You think of Leicester, Janina Leipzig's had a brilliant season. And the two teams that are down there, Aston Villa and Crystal Palace, I think both their goalkeepers have struggled at times this season. I think Shea Inez probably isn't at the level required. And Sabrine D'Angelo, as we saw last season with Arsenal, is way too prone to mistake. Now, she's made some decent stops for Villa this season, but it does show how important a goalkeeper can be. And I mean, no team knows that more than Manchester United this season with how good Tullis Joyce has been. But yeah, I think really good defensive performance from West Ham, and they just couldn't quite find enough attacking performance to trouble this United defence. Defensively, United have been really good this season, so they held on well. What I will say is I think United's players didn't cover themselves in glory. I thought a lot of them looked, I wouldn't say disinterested because I think that's a little harsh, but they didn't play at 100%. I think there's a theme amongst United fans: when they win, it's the players; when they lose, Mark Skinner's a clown. That's the clear, but I don't think that is how it works really in this game. Yes, part of it is on Skinner, of course. Every loss, every performance is going to have some part to play on the manager, but I think the players really let themselves down in this game as well. I thought the effort levels were too low. I thought in the box they were particularly poor in front of goal. I thought it was a little lethargic moving the ball up the pitch as well. So problems for United to address. They should be fine. I mean, a drop of points would have been worrying, but as we'll get onto later, Man City making sure that wasn't a problem for United. United all but guaranteeing now that they will play in the Champions League next season. They need 2 points in the last 3 games to put themselves in a position where they can't be caught. Well, 3 points, that's 1 win. Obviously, that last 3 games is Chelsea, Arsenal and Manchester City, which isn't the nicest last 3 games this season, but all they need is a win in there or a draw against City on the final day, or for City to drop points elsewhere, and United are there. So they're in a really good position now. A win here would have guaranteed them Champions League next season, so they'll be gutted they couldn't do that. Also would have put them 3 points off Chelsea, which is exactly where they would have wanted to be. But alas, a draw here, and it ends any hopes of the title, and it keeps a little bit of jeopardy in the Champions League, but they should get it now, United.
Yeah, they're still in a decent position. Arsenal will be focusing on that Champions League. Chelsea will now probably be able to put all their eggs into the WSL basket and the FA Cup basket, similar to United. And City have shown that even if United slip up, they're going to go and do the same, if not worse. So I think United are probably nailed on. It's just, I think it's now performance-based. They'll want to build up they've got a really tough 3 games, but they'll want to get some wins on the board before that FA Cup final. So it's just about building momentum, putting in good performances. You're playing against the other top sides in the league, so you always want to win against them. So I think for United, the results don't really matter in the next 3 games, but in terms of the league standing, but in terms of the performance, in terms of building that the momentum and that morale boost going into the FA Cup final. That's what you want, really.
Yeah, going into FA Cup final and obviously going into next season as well. I think United will be keen to build for the future. They know how big next season could be. With them return to the Champions League, they know how important this summer's going to be. There's got to be improvements across the board, especially with their depth. And I think we saw that in this game. United, I don't think they turn to their bench enough in games like these. And the problem is when they do, it's a 37-year-old Rachel Williams. And while she can still contribute somewhat, I think there's much better out there, much better options that give you something different to Elizabeth Taylor. So I do think their bench options need improving. But yeah, United disappointing draw here, but they do stay third in the league. And let's move on then to Brighton 1, Liverpool 2. Olivia Smith continuing her reign of terror over WSL fullbacks. This time the victim, Poppy Pattinson. How good were Liverpool and how good was Smith?
Yeah, Liverpool very good, and Smith, as you say, causing problems for any opposition she plays against at the moment. And it was really good from Liverpool. I think there's a lot to say about Brighton, but we'll start with Liverpool. They played very, very well. They moved the ball really quickly. They kept Brighton under pressure for the whole 90 minutes, and to score 90 seconds into any football game is always a brilliant start. And again, it was a lovely piece of play. Credit to Holland, back in the side, 2 assists, and the first one was absolute class. The ball in behind to Olivia Smith was pinpoint, and when you put Smith on put Smith in 1-on-1 with a goalkeeper, the form she's in this season, she was always going to score. So a brilliant way for Liverpool to start this game. But overall, across the board, they were absolutely brilliant. They ran Brighton ragged. They moved the ball really quickly. And again, it was another really impressive game against a decent side under Amber Whiteley. And it again puts Liverpool up to the table. They jumped to 5th, and it was overall just a really strong 90 minutes from Liverpool.
Yeah, I think in this game we saw the problems that you can have when you play a 3-back. Yeah. As we've seen a bit with Brighton this season. But the issue we saw here was no one was marking Olivia Smith. Yeah. Because the left wing back is often too high and the left centre half is often too narrow. So you give all this space for Olivia Smith, and either the left centre half has to push out there, which leaves you with less players in the box, which can be a problem. Or your left wing back pushes back, in which case it becomes more a back 5 in that sense of the wing backs having to drop back, and then that limits your attacking opportunities. So they ended up just not doing either and giving Olivia Smith a lot of space on that right hand side. And for her first goal, it was 2 minutes to find a goal. It's way too easy for Olivia Smith to just saunter into the penalty area and finish it off. And if you give Smith that time, space, you give Smith that respect, she's going to finish off chances like that. As we've seen throughout this season, her catalogue of goals has been really impressive. A lot of really well taken goals. She didn't even need to do something like that in this game because she's pretty much in the goal when she received the ball. Yeah. So really well taken finish. But yeah, really great ball from Kerry Holland. I think we've seen this season really consistent performances from Holland, and in this game asked to do a role that she's not really natural in, playing off that left flank, obviously with being preferred to Kapox in that role, which was interesting, but Holland came in and did a really good job.
Yeah, I like it from Amber Whiteley. It's something we see other top managers do when you've got so many quality players in one position. Most managers try and find a way to play those players in different positions. When you have Nagano, Herbinger, and Sam Kerr all as options in mid, and Holland in midfield, you want to play all 4 of them really, but you can't play 4 people in central midfield. So finding a new role for Holland, I really liked it. It's the initiative from Whiteley to understand that she has quality players, but so she's going to have to find new roles for them. I really liked, and as you say, Holland flourished in that role and played very well.
Well, I think what we saw was, you say there, you can't play 4 players in middle midfield, but they almost did. A lot of this game, Holland would drift inside a little bit and Hines create the width, which when you're playing Fisk at right back, that does work. Yeah. So it was quite interesting to see. Oh, sorry, Bernabé at right back, but they were able to play that situational back 3, and then Bernabé overlapping Holland, Hines playing right back. It was a really well set up defence, and then Holland was able to drift inside. And what we saw a lot from Holland was operating in that half space. So she was able then to create chances, as we saw that ball in behind for Olivia Smith. You can't do that if you're on the touchline. No. So being able to drift inside, given that freedom to drift inside, she could then play that ball across to Smith, and then obviously her second assist, that ball inside to Leanne Kiernan, where way too many gaps in that Brighton defence. The player stopped and appealed for offside, but someone's got to be near the striker in the penalty area. It's outrageous. I know they were building out from the back, and that's why those spaces open up. But again, people ask what's gone wrong for Brighton this season because they started really fast. They were in the Champions League places at one point. Everyone was loving Brighton. But as we said at the time, actually, we did a video looking at Brighton, looking at what they were doing great tactically. I mentioned that there were some concerns, and those problems were that there were defensive frailties they were getting away with. Think back to the Man City game they drew at the start of the season, which was, I think, 0-0 in that game. There was chances for City which they didn't capitalise on, but they came from what we've seen from Brighton, which is that there are defensive gaps and they are a bit too poor playing out from the back to try and play such an aggressive out from the back system where they want to play through the lines. The problem is they give the ball away too much. This was picked up by Kerry Holland. She plays it into Leanne Kiernan, and she's in a brilliant position to score.
Yeah, Brighton's errors leading to goals statistics are absolutely horrific this season, and it's one of those stats where obviously some stats don't exactly correlate to performances, and they don't there's no direct link to it, but that is one of the stats in football where it directly impacts the result, and the amount of times they've given the ball away in or around their own penalty area and it has led to a goal is just, it's not good enough at the top level. And it's another game where the 2 goals come because Liverpool, and like other teams in the league, have found Brighton out. The first goal came because, as you say, Liverpool knew there'd be space in between the wing-back and the centre-half, and the fact it only took them 2 minutes to exploit that space is absolutely ridiculous from Brighton. But that's how easy it is when sides know how you want to play, because they know exactly where the space is beyond the pitch. And again, losing the ball, poor pass, you lose it in your own penalty area, and it's an easy goal for Kiernan, who I think actually had a really, really good game and was unfortunate to not score more if it wasn't from a really good performance from Loeck in the Brighton net. But Brighton, it shouldn't matter now. There's only 3 games left, but they could end up finding themselves dropping down the table. They've already dropped down a place to 6 now. They could find themselves outside the top half, which would be a really disappointing way to end the season. But in terms of, it's not good. It'll be frustrating to finish there, but it won't have any impact. Not get relegated or get Champions League or anything. It doesn't really matter now. But it's that pride element of it. You want to finish 5th. They wanted to be best of the rest because for a portion of the season they were best of the rest. Going into next season, I think I like Dario Vidicic. I think he's a good bloke. I think he's got some really good ideas and he's a top manager. But there's still a few things they need to address and work out because if they don't sort it out over the summer, next season is going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think it comes down to either they've got to bring in players who are going to be the right profile for the squad and the way that he wants to play football, bring in players who are comfortable playing that level in the WSL, or make those tactical adjustments, because I think it has been too naive at times this season from Brighton. I think there's an overcommitment to playing out from the back, which can be very successful. You can draw players in and that way, and we've seen them win games because they'll play out from the back really successfully, draw those attackers in, and then play out of that press. And then that gives you the numerical advantage because you've drawn the opposition to you, and now you're the ones with the ball. You're driving through those lines of pressure unopposed.
Yeah.
That can be really effective. The problem is for Brighton this season, because their players aren't good enough to play that way, they are just going to get dispossessed too often. And we've seen so many mistakes this season from Brighton. Yeah, I think it's got to be a rethink tactically, or there's got to be players coming in that can play that style. But I also think back threes are really difficult to pull off in modern football because of the nature of pressing, because of now this obsession with pressing structures. I think it's really difficult to play an effective 3-back now. Yeah. We've seen it a lot in the Premier League recently. We're now starting to see it in the WSL, where if you want to play a back 3, it tends to be more of a defensive shape. You're going to be more of a transitional side. When you try and mix the two, playing a back 3 and being a possession side, it can be really difficult. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what Brighton do next. Maybe we'll see a brilliant tactical evolution from Dario Vidicic. He's going to have months over the summer, which other managers won't have, because there'll be a lot of players from other teams at the Euros, whereas Brighton, yes, they'll have players there, of course, but I think a lot of Brighton's squad will still be with the Brighton team over the summer. So they should have a slightly longer pre-season than most teams. So that could benefit them massively. I think it's important that we see a sort of an evolution from Vidicic. If you stay stagnant, you lose progress. So I think they've got to be better over the summer. Their goal, though, worth talking about, Michelle Aguimang, with another goal. I think a player who has contributed quite well this season for Brighton, the limited minutes that she's had.
Yeah.
I think a player who should be realistically looking at playing for Arsenal next season.
Yeah, she had a good season. Michelle Aguiman, scoring for England, has got more minutes for Brighton in this calendar year as well. So credit to her in a game where Brighton didn't really do much. She finished there. I believe their only shot on target. So credit to her. It was an okay finish. She sent Laws the wrong way. It was a good ball in across the box that caused an issue. So yeah, credit to Aguiman though, because I think that she has done, when she's been called upon, she has done well this season.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you look at Arsenal perhaps lacking a striking option that they really back to be a backup to Russo. I think Baxenius is a decent enough player, but I think if they're looking at where they can improve, a backup striker who they truly believe in, who can offer something different to Russo,
Yeah.
I think Aguiman's your player. So I think they've got a really nice option there. I think she'll be hoping to get some minutes with Arsenal next season. I think if they aren't looking at her being a squad player, she'd be well in their rights to look at her options, because most clubs in the WSL would take her.
100%.
So there's going to be suitors. I mean, Brighton would probably sign her permanently, given the opportunity. Even look at the opposition in this game. I think Liverpool would sign her permanently if given the chance. So, yes, I think Arsenal have got to think about how they integrate her into the squad next season, because she's a very good player and she's shown that this year. And let's get on to Manchester City then, throwing away some points. Man City 1, Everton 1. Everton unbeaten against Man City this season. Brian Sorensen's toffee army. City coming unstuck again.
Two very, very different games, but yeah, Everton, they got a point. Somehow they've got a point for this football match. Manchester City, I mean, I know they're missing players, but they're still professional footballers. They missed way too many chances in this game, and Everton had got nothing. Everton,
It's a second string Everton team. There's no Kelly Gargo, no Courtney Brosnan in this game. They've had to recall Izzy Hobson, haven't they, recently, because they have no centre backs. In this game, it was Stenovic and Fernandes, and Martina Fernandes, by the way, phenomenal performance again.
Yeah,
really quality player. I mean, shock. Barcelona Loney is good. Who would have thought it? Not me. But yeah, it's been a really well drilled defensive performance from Everton, but they did concede a lot of shots, a lot of chances, and City didn't capitalise on them. And I know City have injuries in attacking areas, but Murphy, Caroline and Parks are good enough front three to score some more goals in this game. Kasparai did well to get into the position that she did to take that first goal. I think the messages behind her goal probably more important than the actual goal itself. But we saw the tribute to trans people after what we've seen passed through government this week. We saw the Mary Fowler shirt as well, which I thought was a really nice touch. Both of those lovely gestures from Kerstin Kasparai. They went on into the game though, and they couldn't find another goal. Everton, the twins linking up as Sarah played to Karen.
Yes.
Nailed it for the first time this season. I've gotten the right way around. And Everton then rode their luck a bit, but you do have to get lucky in games like these sometimes.
You do have to get lucky, but for Man City, you feel like at some point they've got to get lucky.
19 shots to 3, 7 on target to 1 on target, 3 big chances to 1. The difference is Everton didn't miss a big chance.
They didn't, but football is such a cruel game sometimes for Man City. It will feel like a massive opportunity. They were handed a massive opportunity by Manchester United drawing on Saturday, and if City had won, there was a slim chance they could have got back into Europe, but they've gone and thrown that away. So a disappointing draw for Manchester City. Again, we know their problems. Don't want to go on about it. We know they've got injuries, but the fact of the matter is the starting 11 that went out there was good enough to beat Everton. They put up the numbers to beat Everton. They didn't put the ball in the back of the net. It's as simple as that. On another day, they probably win the game 2 or 3-0. They were just unfortunately they didn't take their own chances, and then Everton, they got a chance and they took it. And credit to them, because it wasn't one of their best. It was two sides who didn't play at their best really, and it levelled out as a draw, which is I think a fair result in the end. Man City should have won on numbers, but the way they played, there's no reason. There's no wonder why Everton took a point away. But again, Everton on another day, with the likes of if Gargo was fit and ready, it could have been a completely different game, because we've seen how dangerous she's been this season. But overall, it was just a disappointing game. I think it just really wasn't one of the highest quality, and neither side played. I don't think they didn't play well, because they both still drew and they both still scored a goal, but neither side did anything incredible.
No, and I know they've had a lot of injury problems, but Nick Cushing is trying his hardest to make the Man City CEO's decision to sack Gareth Taylor one of the worst decisions of all time. since then, City have barely won a game. They've got 1 or 2 wins in that period under Cushing so far. It's been a really messy time at the club, and yeah, I know they've had their injury concerns, but it's not been a great end to the season for City, and they've got Leicester, United, and Palace left this campaign. Realistically, they should be looking at least 2 wins in those last 3, but I think at the moment with Leicester pushing towards the top half of the table, with Palace hoping to end on a bang in the final game week. Who knows what's going to happen in that last game, because City will probably have nothing to play for. Palace definitely have nothing to play for. It could be anything from 5-0 City to 1-0 Palace.
Yeah, City have got players coming back, though, which is the big thing. Rebecca Knack returning in this match was good for Man City. That was probably one of the only positives from this game.
Will any of them want to play? Will Lauren Hemp want to play 3 pointless games for Man City rather than just stay fit and get to the Euros? Will Greenwood want to play any games, or will she just want to get to the Euros?
I think they'll want to get minutes in the tank because they haven't played any over months.
They've got about 5 international friendlies because UEFA decided to put a Nations League period just before the Euros.
Yeah, I know, but I still think if you want to play, you're going to want to play for your club if you can. You don't want to sit on the bench and watch them keep losing for the last 3 games. But I think it was good to see Nat back, but well managed as well. She didn't just get thrown back in and play 90 minutes. She played an hour and they bought her off. That's how you manage it. Well done, Nick Cushing. That was because if that was Gareth Taylor, and that would have played 90 minutes and come off injured in the 85th. But yeah,
it does feel like he still hasn't. They've still not learnt their lesson though, because Weinreut has not started a game this season, and I know Casper and Noah Harvey are both very good. But with the amount of injuries elsewhere, you'd think they might get a rest if there's a player on the bench who could come in and play.
Yeah, or you move them around and then you rest our players, because you could bring Weinreuther in, put Casper on the wing, put Park into midfield, and then you can, don't play Alexandria as some part of some double pivot with Hasegawa.
Well, no, where's Oyama?
That is true.
She's fit. She's sat on the bench. What has she got to do to get an opportunity in Manchester City? I don't know what she's doing in training. Is she just smashing in her own net constantly? Why hasn't she been given a chance this season? Yeah. With the amount of injuries they've had, you'd think that would be an obvious choice. I said Alexandri, who's played every minute since the start of the season now, has not been given a rest in this game. Instead, she's playing out of position. Just give Oyama a go. What is the worst that she does? Honestly, I don't know why they've bothered signing her if they're not going to give her a minute in this season. It's been completely pointless. And that's the problem. City will complain about injuries, and understandably so, but they could have rotated players earlier in the season. They could have rested players. Hasegawa's played every minute since the dawn of time, and Oyama sat on the bench wasting away.
It's the same story every game City play at the moment. It's it's the same thing. They've got injuries, they haven't dealt with it, and it cost them results. But
Everton had injuries in this game. There's no Kelly Gargo. And they still got the result.
For Everton, it is as simple as with their full strength side, they would have won this little match. That's where they're at for me for Everton. If Gargo was on the pitch, I think Brosnan, no offence to Ramsey, but Brosnan probably deals with the Man City goal, because that wasn't very good.
To be fair, Ramsey made some brilliant saves.
She did
6
play well
in this game and 1 goal conceded against Man City. That's a huge performance. I don't know where Everton are finding all these good goalkeepers from.
No. So one position they've actually nailed down for the last couple of years.
Brosnan's probably been keeper of the season. Yeah. Between her and Talis Joyce, and she gets injured. You think, this is a chance for Man City. Then Ramsey comes in and looks just as comfortable. So. Yeah, a really good point for Everton, even if perhaps City should have taken all 3. But 100%. City, it's another 2 points drop rather than a point gain. Yeah. So, frustrating performance for them. Let's get on to game of the weekend then, because Tottenham doing Tottenham things, Villa doing Villa things, Tottenham 2, Aston Villa 3. Both these sides tried their hardest not to win this game. It was incredible.
I've never seen a more predictable 3-2 result in football. We had a weekend where we saw big sides drawing and some close scorelines, and these lots went, let's have some fun. And I just thought a crazy football match, and credit to both. Actually, no, not credit to both sides, because they both weren't very good. I think individually there was some really good performance out there, especially in the Villa camp. I thought Daly was brilliant. I thought Salmon was absolutely phenomenal. Hanson was brilliant off the bench, but.
We spoke Kearns as well. We've not seen much. We've not seen much of her this season. She came back from injury, looked really sharp in this game.
Yeah, and I think that Aston Villa, to give them their credit, the first half they were brilliant. They shut Tottenham out. Tottenham had 9 shots and didn't put a single one on target. It is in 45 minutes. How do you have a shot once every 5 minutes on average and not put a single one on target?
Rice now scored in this game, because the 4 misses before that. Really tough, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's one of those games where Tottenham just didn't want to. You know the unstoppable force versus immovable object? This is
Yeah.
the opposite. This is stoppable force versus movable object. And they just kept turning them going.
It was so predictable. Villa were played brilliant in the first half, and they obviously got the first goal, went into half time 1-0 up, goal for Patton on her birthday. Happy birthday to her. They come out in the second half.
Always the useful stats, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got some brilliant ones on the sleeve. Come out in the second half, brilliant goal. And this is what Rachel Daly, I think, was absolutely brilliant. It was her header that hit the crossbar that led to the Patton goal. And the long ball, the flick on from Daly is absolutely brilliant. And the pace from Salmon to burst in behind and score, superb. I thought Salmon had a really, really good game. And it was a really well taken goal. And at 2-0, you thought, wow, Aston Villa played really well. They're on for a good result. Nothing can go wrong from here. They're going to win a football game because Tottenham played very well. And then England and Vinberg come on. Villa just forget how to play football. Yeah. Tottenham scored twice, and suddenly it's 2-2 again. And that came from absolutely nowhere. The Naz goal, it was scrappy, but Jess Naz has finally scored a goal. She's had a torrid season. Finally finds the back of the net, which is good for her.
So she's now called up for England, probably.
Yeah, getting to the Euros. And then the second goal, we mentioned D'Angelo at the top of the show earlier during the West Ham game. I have no idea what she's doing for the second goal. Where is she going? Why is she going over to the ball? She just runs 30 yards out of her net, gets ran past by Ella Morris, and Ella Morris puts it into an open net. It's good work from the fullback. It's a great run, and I say ran the goalkeeper, just ran past this D'Angelo who's just sprinting out of the football. But you just...
It's two teams who have players in their backlines and defensive setups that are competing for the most clippable and stupid moments this season. I don't know what they're doing. Tottenham centre-halves, another game where neither of them look comfortable at this level. They lost over 50% of their aerial duels. How do you have centre-halves who are so incapable of defending? We've seen it this season with they had Hunt there, they played Grant there. Neither of them have looked comfortable. Barship hasn't looked comfortable this season, no matter who you partner with. And Rybring has come in this centre-half season and looked just as bad. I don't know what they're doing recruiting centre-halves at the moment, but they can't find anyone who's comfortable playing in this Villa system.
I think Rybring's done well when she's played in that defensive midfield role. When she's played centre-half, she scored an own goal on her debut, scored another own goal against West Ham, and had a torrid time here. And even when you thought Tottenham might have rescued a point, they still managed to find a way to throw it away. Credit to Kirsty Hanson. Came off the bench against Liverpool and scored the winner. Now came off the bench against Tottenham and scored the winner. A player, I think she's a very, very good player. She's a established WSL player that is uses her when we talk. I think we see it with a couple of players. They use their strength, but also the ability of the ball at their feet to really burst past players. It's a brilliant goal from Hanson. She picks it up, runs past three players, uses her physicality up against Neville, and fires it past Copper. It's a really well taken goal. It's a lovely piece of work from the winger, and a deserved goal in stoppage time for Aston Villa. They did win the game. I think it was a crazy one. Overall, the side who won were deserving winners, and Tottenham should have never really been in the game. But Villa just went the long way about it, which is exactly what they've done all season.
It's nice to see Ebony Salmon score as well, because we've got a lot of commenters who love Ebony Salmon, and it's always like, she's going to be good, but we don't see it materialise. And this game finally saw her contribute, and a really important goal as well. So, Aston Villa, 3 points. They're safe now. Palace are all but down. There's 7 points between them. If Palace beat Chelsea, then the dream's still alive, but realistically, I can't see that happening. So, it's unfortunate that again we're going to see the team that's come up go straight back down. Nicky Doucette will probably use this to justify never relegating everyone, just constantly promoting teams till we end up with a 100-team league and no relegation.
And I find it incredible that we are in a position now where Aston Villa, who were in the relegation fight only a couple of weeks ago, are only 6 points off Brighton, who are 6th. Yeah. It's just crazy how
Brighton can finish 11th.
Brighton's genuinely
if West Ham, Everton, Tottenham, Leicester and Aston Villa all come together to get enough points this season, they could all finish ahead of Brighton.
This is another big question mark around Tottenham, by the way, because they were terrible in this game. They never should 3-2 flatters them because they should never have been in it.
And left this season, they've got Liverpool, which I can't see them winning, Chelsea, which I definitely can't see them winning, and Everton.
But we say that, and then they'll go and beat Liverpool.
Win them all.
They'll go and beat Liverpool 2-0 or something. I think Villa Harm's got very fortunate they've pulled results out of their rear at times this season.
How low does Tottenham have to finish before Villa Harm loses his job?
11th.
If they finish 11th, does he keep it though?
He probably will, which I don't think... at the moment, they're my favourites to finish 11th. because they've been really poor this season and have somehow got away
Villa
with
have
it.
got West Ham, Arsenal, Brighton.
That's not great.
It's not a fantastic run, but
No.
I could see them picking up 3 points against this current Brighton team, which then takes them ahead of Tottenham.
Yeah.
So if Tottenham don't win and Villa beat Brighton, Villa would jump them.
I also think Villa have picked up a good. This is good for Villa because it's important that they don't turn on Arroyo just yet, because I think she is a good manager. It hasn't been a brilliant spell, but they've been a lot of promise. We've seen a lot of potential. That in this game they were so good coming forward, and if it wasn't some a scrappy corner and a bizarre moment from D'Angelo, they would have won the game 3-0. So I think for Villa, there's a lot of promise, there's a lot of potential. On the flip side for Tottenham, there's a lot of worry.
We've seen a lot of spirit from Villa this season, but the problem is that's coming because they're always behind. Why are they always behind? Like, they've won their last 2 games, but the Liverpool game they went 1-0 down, then fought back. This Tottenham game they went 2-0 up. They should be fine. They decided to try and throw it away, and then they had to fight back.
Yeah.
Why are they always having to fight back? If they just got it right from the first minute, they wouldn't have to do these dramatic comebacks. But it is going. These dramatic comebacks are going to improve that relationship between the fans and the players, because it is exciting to watch a team come back in the last minute. But equally, they need to start picking up some more consistent wins. But they won their last 2 matches after a run of 5 games without a point. So really important stuff that from Aston Villa, and it is going to keep them in the WSL, I reckon, for another season.
They're scoring goals. They need to start the defensive problems, but it's good to see these young, exciting attackers, and Rachel Daly's there flicking the ball on and getting assists. But Salmon getting involved, Bo Kearns, Chastity Grant with another assist today. There's a lot of promise around that Villa camp. I just think defensively they need to shore up a little bit.
Well, that's the problem for Tottenham and Villa is, and Leicester included actually, in fact most of the bottom half of the table, is that next season we expect it to be London City Lionesses coming up. It's going to really come down to the final day between them and Birmingham. Either way, Birmingham would also invest. But if London City Lionesses come up, there is going to be money there. We know that with Michelle Kane. There's going to be investment there. I think these teams in the bottom of the table have got to be really worried about that. Yeah. Because one of them is the relegation isn't going to be as cut and dry as it has been the last 2 years. One of them is going to have a serious problem, and I think they've got to be really mindful of that. Tottenham performances this season not being good enough, and what a shock it would be if they managed to go down next season. Aston Villa, very similarly, it's not been good enough this season. If London City Lionesses come in and are competitive next year, Villa could be the ones that suffer from that. So these teams have got to be really mindful that next season could be a lot more competitive than the last 2 years have been, and they can't rest on their laurels. So a lot of investment, a lot of thought needed this season. But that pretty much rounds up this game week. Let's have a look at the table. We've still got a game to go, but we want to get this video out on its usual Monday slot. And let's be honest, Chelsea Palace shouldn't find any shocks. If it does, we'll have a video out on Thursday going, how the hell have Chelsea lost 5-0 to Crystal Palace?
Yes.
But let's run through the WSL table. Top of the table remains Chelsea on 48 points, only 3 points ahead of Arsenal, who beat Leicester last midweek. Third place, it is Manchester United on 43 points. They had a chance to go level with Arsenal this week, but their draw of West Ham meant they stayed third. In fourth, Manchester City, 7 points off Champions League places, now an almighty failure of a season for the citizens. In fifth, it's Liverpool, 24 points, FA Cup semi-finals and fifth in the league. Really strong for Liverpool this campaign. Sixth, it's Brighton, their slip off in the second half of the campaign. Hasn't been good enough, but they are still in the top half of the table. In seventh, West Ham, a big point sees them stay seventh, while Everton climb to eighth with a draw. Tottenham, embarrassing, they're now ninth. They are 2 points ahead of Leicester in 10th. 11th place, Aston Villa also on 16, only behind Leicester on goal difference after their win against Tottenham. And 12th in the table, bottom of the league, Crystal Palace, 9 points this season. Hopefully they can get at least a point and get over that double digits.
Yeah, they want to get double digits. But yeah, only 3 games to go. We're at the business end now. We've got semi-finals. We've got finals being arranged.
It feels it's all wrapped up.
Yeah, it does feel pretty much done now. But
because I can't see City getting third. I can't see Arsenal United catching Chelsea, as much as the most pessimistic Chelsea fans in our chat think they might. And I can't see Crystal Palace winning every game left this season and pulling off a remontada. So it does feel like the league's pretty much cut and dry now.
But that's when you get the most wacky and weird results.
Exactly. That's going to be great fun to. It's not going to have any meaning, but it's going to be great fun to watch. Yeah. And anyone from Liverpool to Villa could finish anywhere from 5th to 11th. That's what we're all here for, isn't it?
That is genuinely incredible. This is why the WSL is the best league in the world. Because you don't get that anywhere else. That is so.
But the most
so
interesting
good.
battle is the midfield battle, where Aston Villa, who have been fighting off relegation, could finish fifth.
The Brighton sacked Middlesbrough, they fall to 11th. Like, what happens there? Because they've been 4th, 5th all season, then they could
Do
end up 11th.
Tottenham knight Villa if they finish fifth?
That if Tottenham finish 5th, genuinely, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, crazy season. We'll be back for more next weekend. In the meantime, Champions League analysis is coming Tuesday and Wednesday. Look out for that. Tuesday we'll be looking at Arsenal Lyon, where the gaps were. On Wednesday it'll be a 20-minute session where we cry and blame the referees. Then next weekend we'll be back with more Champions League coverage. And obviously WSL reviews coming on Monday. Then we're into the last 2 weeks of the season. Yes. And then FA Cup final, stuff like that. Then obviously building up to the Euros. That's what we're all excited for now. But still some very important weeks left of the domestic campaign. That was everything for us today. Thank you guys very much for watching. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.